the whisper of a legend. The Galactic Council chamber was silent yet filled with hidden tension. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in their high seats, watching the main platform where the discussion had reached a dangerous point. Stars shone outside, the glass dome above them, but inside the air was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. An elder from the Zorith species stood tall, his scaled skin glowing faintly. His voice echoed across the chamber. Once again, I bring reports from the border systems. Entire fleets vanish. No distress calls, no wreckage, nothing left, only silence in the dark. Murmurs began to spread. Many leaders leaned forward, their faces uneasy. A sharp laugh broke the air. It came from a counselor of the Rhinar Dominion, a race of tall, feathered beings. You still repeat these ghost tales? Whole fleets do not just vanish. This is fear, talking, not fact. But the Zorith elder's eyes burned. Fear has reason. What hunts them is not just an enemy, it is a legend from the age of humans. The word humans cut through the chamber like a blade. Some counselors shifted uncomfortably, others scoffed. Humanity had disappeared centuries ago, retreating from the galaxy, leaving only ruins and memories. They were a species remembered in whispers, bold, reckless, dangerous. Humans are gone, another alien snapped. Their stories remain only to entertain children. Yet the elder did not back down. His voice grew deeper. There was once talk of a ship, not a fleet, not an empire, just one ship, built by humans as their last defense. They said it could stand against all the galaxy's armadas. They called it the Harbinger. The chamber erupted in laughter, disbelief ringing through the air. Some pounded their tables, mocking. Others dismissed it as pure myth. But at the far side of the chamber, a young officer of the Valen Alliance did not laugh. His name was Kael. His smooth silver skin reflected the council lights as he listened carefully. Unlike others, he had heard this rumor before, not in stories for children but in the dark records of forgotten wars. Kael's commander leaned close and whispered, "Do not waste thought on this. The humans are dust. Their legends are smoke." Still, Kael's mind was restless. Why then did fleets disappear with no sign? Why did the energy readings from the border match no known technology? The council leader raised his many hands, silencing the noise. Enough. We will not waste time chasing ghosts. But since the rumors continue, an investigation will be done. Officer Kael, your fleet is assigned to search the missing sectors. Bring us truth and end this madness. Kael stood, his heart racing. Every eye turned to him. He bowed stiffly, though his mind churned with unease. As the council dismissed, voices filled the hall again. Most mocked the old tale, calling it foolish. But some lowered their voices, whispering. A story suppressed in history began to breathe, once more. That night, Kael walked alone through the docking bay of the Valen capital. Massive cruisers slept in their berths, their metallic bodies glowing with soft blue lights. Engineers moved like ants below them. The bay smelled of oil, plasma, and restless energy. Kael's steps echoed as he stared up at the ships. They were powerful, modern, and armed with weapons that could destroy worlds. Yet inside he felt a quiet fear. His mind repeated the words, "One ship against all fleets. The Harbinger." He remembered reading an old log hidden in the Valen archives. It described a battle centuries ago, where an unknown vessel tore through an armada in minutes. The record was marked classified and ended abruptly. At the time, Kael had thought it exaggeration. Now, with fleets vanishing, the doubt returned. Soon his fleet was ready. Dozens of sleek ships prepared for departure, crews boarding, systems humming. Kael stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Resolute. His officers moved quickly around him, but all could sense his tension. "Commander," one of them asked carefully, "do you really believe in this human ship?" Kael's eyes stayed on the stars ahead. "Belief does not matter. Something is out there, and I will find it." The fleet engines roared. The stars stretched into lines as they jumped into hyperspace, leaving the safe worlds behind. Days passed. They crossed lonely sectors where suns burned dim and planets were dead rocks. At first, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then the reports began. Patrol ships failed to return. Scans revealed strange traces of energy. Sharp, cold, and unnatural. No known species used such power. Kael studied the data late into the night. The readings pulsed like a heartbeat, as if something alive was watching. One officer whispered, "It is hunting us." Kael felt the weight of those words. The fear in his crew spread like smoke, yet he pressed forward. He could not turn back. Finally, they reached the coordinates, where the last fleet had vanished. Darkness wrapped the sector. No planets, no stations, only endless black. The ships moved slowly, sensors scanning every direction. The crew grew restless. The silence was crushing. Then, faintly, a shadow appeared on the edge of their scanners. Massive. Silent. Too large to be natural. Kael stood frozen. His chest tightened as the image cleared. A shape, long and monstrous, gliding through space without sound. It was not alien. It was not of their design. It was human. First contact with the unknown. The shadow drifted closer, slow and silent, like a predator hidden in the dark ocean. On the bridge of the Resolute, every officer froze. The scanners trembled, trying to read the object, but the results made no sense. "Report," Kael ordered, his voice sharp. The sensor officer's hands shook. "Commander, it's a ship. Size unknown. Length far beyond our dreadnought class. Energy signature impossible. It's ancient but stronger than anything I've ever seen." The crew exchanged fearful looks. No one spoke the word, but the same thought ran through all their minds. The legend. Kael's throat felt dry. His heart pounded in his chest. This was not just a rumor. It was real. The massive ship turned slowly, as if it had been waiting for them. Its hull was black as the void, broken only by faint glowing lines that pulsed like veins of fire. No insignia, no markings, nothing to say who owned it. Only one thing was certain. It was human. "Open a channel," Kael said firmly, though his voice betrayed his tension. Static filled the bridge speakers. Then suddenly a low voice cut through the silence. Cold, commanding. "Leave now. This territory is not yours. Stay, and you will be destroyed." The words were spoken in standard, Galactic, but with an accent Kael had only heard in old archives. Human gasps spread through the bridge. Some officers stepped back from their stations as though the voice itself carried weight. "Commander," the first officer whispered. "They know our language. They've been waiting." Kael kept his face steady, though inside his thoughts spun in chaos. If this really was the Harbinger, then they were standing before the most dangerous weapon the galaxy had ever seen. He pressed the comm. "This is Commander Kael of the Valen Alliance fleet. Identify yourself." No reply. Instead, the giant ship drifted forward, and their systems screamed warnings. Shields detected an energy buildup, vast and terrifying. It was not like plasma, not ion, not particle-based. Something older, something different. "Stand ready," Kael shouted. "Shields up." Around him, his officers obeyed, though fear made their movements clumsy. The fleet shifted into defensive formation. Dozens of ships spread across the void, their weapons charged and glowing. The enemy ship, silent and calm, kept coming. "Commander," his weapons officer said nervously, "we should strike first, a full volley, overwhelm it before it attacks." Kael hesitated. To fire meant war. To hold meant risk. But then he remembered the reports, fleets disappearing without a trace. Hesitation had killed them. If this ship truly was human, it had already proven its power. "Do it," Kael ordered. The void lit up. 50 cruisers fired at once. Plasma lances, missile swarms, ion beams, all cutting through the dark like storms of fire. The space around. The shadow burned with light. For a moment the crew cheered. The combined firepower could level entire planets. Nothing could survive such a storm. But when the blaze faded, the ship remained. Untouched. not even a scar on its surface. The shields around it glowed faintly, like a ripple of water, then vanished again. The bridge of the Resolute went dead, silent. Every officer stared, pale and speechless. Then the ship answered. It fired once. Not a barrage, not a swarm, just a single beam, bright and pure, like a blade of white fire cutting through the void. Kael's eyes widened in horror, as one by one 50 ships vanished in silence, not destroyed into wreckage, not shattered into debris, vanished, erased from existence as if space itself had swallowed them whole. The light faded, leaving only the Resolute and a few escorts alive. Screams echoed through the comms. Crews panicked. Some officers on the bridge broke into shouts. Impossible! What kind of weapon was that? They're not fighting, they're judging us. Kael gripped the command rail, forcing himself to stay steady. His body shook, but his voice stayed sharp. Hold position. Do not scatter. His mind raced. That one strike had ended 50 ships. The power was beyond all logic. The council had laughed at the legend, but here it was, real, undeniable. Suddenly, the comm crackled again. Commander Kael, the voice said, calm and heavy. You are warned. Do not test us again. This ship carries the will of humanity. Leave or be erased. Kael swallowed hard. Humanity is gone, he replied carefully. Their worlds are empty, their colonies abandoned. Who speaks for them? Now? For the first time, silence followed. Then a chilling reply came. We still remain. Kael's heart thundered. The crew stared at him, waiting for his command. Some wanted to retreat, others whispered of surrender. Fear thickened the air. But deep inside, Kael felt something else. Curiosity, a burning need to know the truth. If a human still lived on that ship, then history itself had been a lie. Open the channel again, Kael said quietly. His officers looked at him in disbelief. Commander, are you insane? The first officer hissed. They'll kill us. Kael's eyes stayed on the massive ship outside, its dark body glowing faintly with hidden power. No. If they wanted us dead, they would have ended us already. They want us to hear them, and I intend to listen. As the fleet drifted silently in the shadow of the giant warship, the tension grew unbearable. No one dared move. Then, slowly, the ship responded. A signal came through, stronger this time. The screens flickered, a shape appeared. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy looked upon the face of a human. The power unleashed. The bridge of the Resolute fell into silence. As the screen cleared, a figure appeared. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in an ancient uniform that had faded with time. His face was lined with scars, his eyes hard like steel. Unlike the smooth and polished aliens of the Council, this human looked rough, battle-worn, and unshaken. Gasps spread through the crew. Some stepped back as though the man could reach through the screen itself. This cannot be, one officer whispered. Humans are extinct. The human spoke, his voice low but sharp, carrying the weight of centuries. You have tested the Harbinger. You know its strength. Do not force me to use it again. Kael's throat tightened. The man's eyes burned with something he couldn't fully name. Anger, yes, but also sorrow. I am Commander Kael of the Valen Fleet, he said, his voice steady. Who are you? The human stared at him for a long moment, before answering. I am Captain Elias Vorn, last guardian of humanity's final weapon. The word struck like thunder. Last guardian. The galaxy had believed humans were gone, their legacy lost. Yet here stood one, alive, speaking as if the centuries were only yesterday. Kael's officers erupted in whispers. This is impossible. He should be dust by now. Some kind of trick, but Kael raised a hand. Quiet. His eyes stayed locked on Elias. You say this ship is a weapon. Why are you here? Why attack us? The human's jaw tightened. I did not attack. I defended. You brought your weapons to me. You fired first, and I warned you. Kael felt heat rise in his chest. He wanted to argue, but deep down he knew the human spoke truth. Suddenly, alarms screamed across the Resolute. Another fleet had entered the sector, reinforcements from the Council. Hundreds of ships poured from hyperspace, engines burning, weapons charged, the bridge filled with shock and dread. "They sent an entire armada," an officer cried. "Thousands of ships." Kael's stomach turned cold. The Council had dismissed the legend as a joke, but they were not taking chances now. They had sent overwhelming force to crush whatever was out here. On the screen, Elias remained calm. His eyes flicked to the scanners that showed the incoming swarm. Then he looked back at Kael. "Watch carefully, this is what one ship can do." The Harbinger came alive. Its black hull pulsed with light like veins of fire spreading across its skin. Energy radiated outward in patterns no alien technology could match. The void itself seemed to bend around it, as though the ship was tearing holes in space. The first wave of Council ships opened fire. Thousands of beams, missiles, and torpedoes screamed across the darkness. The void blazed with light, but the Harbinger did not dodge. Its shields shimmered, swallowing the storm. When the fire cleared, it remained untouched. Then Elias gave the order. "Return fire." A low hum shook the Resolute. Kael's crew watched in terror and awe as the Harbinger's main weapon ignited. It unleashed not one beam, but a web of burning light that split and curved like rivers through the void. Ships vanished by the dozens, cruisers, destroyers, even capital dreadnoughts, all swallowed in seconds. Their shields melted, their hulls dissolved, their screams cut short. Kael gripped the rail as he watched entire fleets crumble. This was not just power, it was dominance. Technology centuries ahead of anything the galaxy had ever built. "By the stars," an officer whispered, tears in his eyes. "We cannot fight this, we are nothing to it." Panic filled the comms as the Council armada broke formation. Ships turned to flee, commanders shouting desperate orders. But the Harbinger hunted them like a predator. One shot, one strike, and dozens more vanished. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Kael forced himself to stand firm. His crew looked at him, begging for orders, but he could only stare at Elias on the screen. "Why?" Kael demanded. "Why keep this ship? Why guard such power when your people are gone?" Elias's face darkened. For a moment he seemed far older, burdened by memory. "Because humanity was never safe," Elias said quietly. "We built this ship not to conquer, but to protect, to ensure that if the galaxy turned against us, we would not be erased. We left him, but we did not surrender. This ship carries our legacy." Kael's breath caught. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a promise. Humanity had left the galaxy, but they had left behind a guardian that no empire could overcome. The battle outside ended as quickly as it began. What remained of the Council's armada scattered into hyperspace, fleeing like prey. Silence returned to the void. Only wreckage and fear remained. On the bridge of the Resolute, no one spoke. The crew was pale, their hands trembling, their eyes wide. They had just witnessed power beyond imagination. Elias leaned closer to the screen, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Now you understand, do not test us again, one ship is enough." The connection cut. The screen went black. Kael stood frozen. The words echoed in his mind, refusing to fade. "One ship is enough." He turned slowly to his crew. Their faces were filled with fear and awe. He could see the same thought written across them all. If humans still lived, if their shadow still guarded the galaxy, then everything they knew about power, about history, about truth, was a lie. And Kael realized something else. He had not only seen a weapon, he had seen the spirit of a species that refused to die. For the first time in his life, Kael felt small, not because of weakness, but because he stood in the presence of something greater than empire, greater than fleets, greater than the galaxy itself: humanity. The human survivor. The Resolute drifted in the silent wreckage of the Council armada. Sparks of dying ships floated like ash in the void. No one on Kael's bridge moved. The crew sat frozen, their eyes hollow with fear and awe. Kael's hands gripped the command rail until his knuckles turned white. He could not pull his mind away from the image of that single ship. Untouchable, unstoppable. And the man who commanded— A voice broke the silence. The comm officer whispered, "Commander, the Harbinger is signaling us again." Kael's heart leapt. His officers flinched, some shaking their heads in panic. "Do not answer," one cried. "If we respond, he will target us next." But Kael knew better. If Elias had wanted them dead, the Resolute would already be dust. Slowly he nodded. "Open the channel." The screen flickered once more. Captain Elias Vorn appeared, his scarred face calm, his eyes sharp like burning stars. Behind him, the bridge of the Harbinger glowed with faint light, lined with ancient consoles and humming machines that seemed far too alive. Kael straightened his posture. "You said you are the last guardian of humanity. What does that mean? Why are you still here?" Elias leaned back in his chair. For a long moment he was silent, as though weighing whether Kael deserved the truth. Finally he spoke. "When humanity left this galaxy, we knew the others would not forgive us. We had fought too many wars, won too many battles. Empires feared us, hated us. So when the time came to go, we built this." He gestured around him, at the ship that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. The Harbinger. A fortress, a weapon, a warning. My people called it the last vigil. One ship to remain so that no empire could erase the memory of humankind. And one man to guard it. Kael's eyes narrowed. One man? Alone? For centuries? Elias's face hardened, but there was sorrow in his eyes. Not always alone. There were others once, a full crew. Brave men and women who chose to stay behind while our kind journeyed far beyond this galaxy. One by one, time claimed them. I alone remain, kept alive by this ship's systems, and by duty. The bridge of the Resolute fell silent. Kael's crew listened in disbelief, their fear shifting into something stranger. Respect. Kael spoke softly, almost to himself. "You gave up everything. You stayed behind when your people left, just to guard a galaxy that despised you." Elias's jaw tightened. It was not about them. It was about us. Humanity does not vanish. Humanity endures. Even if only one breath remains, it is enough. The words struck Kael like a hammer. He felt something deep inside him stir, a strange ache, a strange admiration. This was not arrogance, this was conviction. Suddenly, the Harbinger's alarms blared in the background. Elias turned sharply. His crew may have been gone, but the ship still lived, and it was warning him. Kael's sensors lit up too. More fleets were entering the sector, not just one empire this time, but many. Ships from rival species, sworn enemies of each other, arriving, side by side with one purpose: destroy the human ship before it destroyed them. Kael's officers panicked. They're combining forces, an entire galactic coalition. On the screen, Elias smirked, though it did not reach his eyes. Of course they are. Nothing unites the galaxy faster than fear of humans. Kael's mind raced. If the Harbinger unleashed its full fury again, the coalition fleets would be wiped from existence. Entire civilizations might collapse in terror. The galaxy would burn from panic. But if the coalition somehow succeeded, they would erase the last living human, the last living witness of a species that had once stood unbroken. Kael's chest tightened. He felt the weight of a choice pressing on him. "Captain Elias," he said, his voice low, urgent. "Why speak to me at all? Why not destroy us and vanish into the dark?" Elias studied him carefully, his scarred face softened just for a breath. "Because you listened," he said simply. "For centuries, no one has listened. They mocked our warnings. They erased our victories. But you stayed." The words cut deeper than Kael expected. For a moment he forgot his fear, forgot the council, forgot the fleets outside. He saw not a monster, not a weapon, but a man carrying the impossible weight of an entire people's memory. The coalition fleets began to surround them. Thousands of ships locked their weapons, glowing in the dark like a storm of fireflies ready to burn. On the Resolute's bridge, the crew braced for death. Some prayed, others wept quietly. Elias's eyes glowed in the dim light. His hand rested on the Harbinger's controls. The ship hummed, hungry, waiting for his command. Kael's voice cracked the silence. If you destroy them, you will make the galaxy tremble forever. They will never stop hunting you. But if you fall here, humanity's memory will fall with you. There must be another way. Elias tilted his head, almost curious. Another way? Kael forced himself to step closer to the screen. Yes. Show them strength, but also show them mercy. Prove that humanity's shadow is not only fear, but choice, legacy, justice. For the first time, Elias smiled faintly, though it was tinged with sadness. You speak boldly, Commander. Perhaps you understand more than your council ever will. The Harbinger's lights flared brighter, filling the void with burning veins of power. The coalition fleets trembled, commanders barked orders in panic, and Elias whispered words that echoed through both ships. Then watch closely, Kael. This will decide what kind of ghost humanity leaves behind. The final choice. The void burned with light. Thousands of ships from every empire spread out across the darkness, forming a vast circle around the Harbinger. Their weapons glowed like a storm about to break. It was the largest fleet Kael had ever seen, an entire galaxy united not by trust or peace but by fear of one ship. On the Resolute, the crew sat frozen, their hearts pounding. Many whispered prayers. Others clutched the railings as if their grip could hold back death. Kael stood tall in the center, his eyes locked on the human captain on the screen. Elias Vorn sat in the Harbinger's command chair, calm as stone. His scarred face showed no fear. They come with everything they have, Elias said, his voice heavy, and still they will not be enough. Kael swallowed hard. Then you will destroy them all? The human's eyes narrowed. That is what they force me to do. The coalition fleet opened fire. The stars lit up as thousands of beams cut through the void, missiles screaming forward in deadly rivers. Space itself seemed to shake, but the Harbinger did not flinch. Its shields rippled once, then settled. The weapons of empires crashed against it like waves against a mountain. And then it struck back. A single volley erupted from its cannons, splitting like 1,000 spears of light. Whole squadrons disappeared, dozens of dreadnoughts broke apart in silence. The coalition screamed over open channels, their voices filled with terror. On the Resolute, Kael's crew watched in shock and dread. It's unstoppable, one whispered. He's going to erase them all. Kael's jaw clenched. He could feel it, the galaxy itself trembling. If Elias unleashed the full power of the Harbinger, entire civilizations would collapse in panic. Wars would spread. The galaxy would never recover. Kael slammed his fist on the console. Captain Vorn, stop this. If you destroy them, you will doom more than fleets. You will doom peace itself. Elias's gaze hardened. Peace? They came with fire, not peace. They mocked us, hunted us, erased our memory. Why should I show mercy? Because if you do not, Kael shouted, his voice breaking with urgency, then humanity will be remembered only as fear. Only as death. Is that the legacy you want to leave behind? The bridge fell silent. Even the crew, trembling with terror, turned their eyes toward the screen. Elias did not speak at once. His scarred face was unreadable, but his eyes, for a moment, they softened. Another wave of the coalition broke against the Harbingers, shields. Thousands more ships prepared their final assault. Time was running out. Kael stepped closer to the screen, his voice low, but every word cut sharp. You stayed behind to guard your people's memory, to prove they were not forgotten. If you burn the galaxy to ashes, you prove their enemies right. But if you show restraint, if you show choice, then even in fear they will also remember humanity's honor. The silence was unbearable. The hum of the Harbinger filled the comms like a heartbeat. Then Elias leaned forward. His voice was quieter now, almost a whisper. For centuries I have carried this weight, alone, to protect what was left, to remind them that one ship is enough. And now you ask me to lay it down. Kael held his gaze. Not to lay it down, to choose. That is what makes humanity strong. Not just power, but the will to choose when to use it. The Harbingers, weapons dimmed. The glowing veins across its hull pulsed slower, quieter, like a beast being leashed. On the coalition ships, commanders shouted in confusion. They braced for annihilation, but the killing blow never came. Instead, the Harbinger broadcast one final message across every frequency in the sector. Its voice carried across the stars. We are humanity. We are gone, but we are not forgotten. Know this. One ship was enough to face you all. But today, we choose not to erase you. Remember this choice. Remember us. The words rolled across every fleet, every crew, every terrified commander. Silence spread like a wave. Weapons powered down. No one dared move. On the Resolute's bridge, Kael felt his chest loosen, though his hands still shook. He had never heard words so heavy, so final. He turned back to the screen. Elias sat in his chair, his face pale, his strength fading. The glow of the ship dimmed around him. You spoke truth, Commander, Elias said quietly. Even ghosts must know when to let go. Kael's throat tightened. What will you do now? The human looked out at the stars. His eyes seemed far away, lost in memory. The Harbinger has done its duty. My duty is finished. Before Kael could answer, the giant ship shifted. Its engines flared, not with the fury of battle, but with a steady fading light. Slowly, silently, the Harbinger turned away from the battlefield, gliding into the endless dark. No one followed. No one dared. The coalition fleet scattered in silence. No victory cries, no threats. Only the shadow of what they had seen. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembled not in laughter at human myths, but in reverence and fear of their truth. On the Resolute, Kael stood alone on the bridge, watching the darkness swallow the Harbinger. The words burned in his mind. One ship is enough. He knew the Council would demand reports, explanations, excuses, but he also knew something else. He had witnessed a legend, lived a truth that others had only mocked. And in that moment, Kael made his own silent vow. He would carry this memory. He would ensure the galaxy never forgot what he had seen, because humanity may have left the stars, but their shadow would remain forever.